Good evening. The time is 4:59. We're going to open up the room to the public, and we're still waiting for one more committee member for a quorum.
Nathan Fields has asked to be excused. He had a work emergency, and Councilman Spadola will be joining us, but he might need to leave at some point in the meeting.
Okay. Madam Chair, we do now have a quorum, and the time is 5:01. So you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good evening. We now call to order the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee meeting. This is a virtual meeting, and we thank everyone who's here with us today, the council members on the committee and others, as well as the public. At this point, I would like to have a roll call of the committee members, starting with, well, Nathan Fields has a leave with absence. Councilmember McCoy. Councilmember McCoy, are you present? Okay. Councilmember Fields. Yes, Councilmember. Thank you. Councilmember Spadola. Councilmember Spadola, are you with us? Councilmember Darby. Councilmember Darby, are you with us? Okay, we have President Ernest Congo.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, so we will proceed. If any of the committee members show up, please just make your presence known as we start with the first agenda item.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Other members of City Council who are present in the meeting, can you please introduce yourself?
Linda Gray, First District Council Member. Thank
you. Any other members of City Council that are with us this evening? Okay, not hearing from anyone. The first item on the agenda is a resolution requesting the Delaware General Assembly for extending bar hours in the city of Wilmington. This is sponsored by Councilwoman Oliver. Councilwoman Oliver, are you with us? If she is not, then we can just talk about it. Basically, we're supporting, City Council supporting the state legislatures to extend bar hours in the city of Wilmington. I assume it'll be from 1 a.m. closing to a 2 a.m. closing. And since Councilwoman Oliver is not here to speak to this, at this point, I open it up to the committee members for any comments or questions or suggestions that you might have as to whether this is a good idea or a bad idea. Does anyone want to speak to this? Okay, well, not hearing any conversation. And how about now the members of the public? Oh, there's Councilmember Oliver. Councilmember Oliver, can you hear us? Are you ready to speak? She's connecting to audio. Let's just give her a moment.
Yeah, sorry, I was having some
Technical difficulties, I understand.
Yeah, give me 1 second, thank you.
Took me 15 minutes. I couldn't even get on with one computer, so I had to skip to another one. I understand. I can't wait till we start meeting in person, which should happen in June. So we are on the first agenda item, Council Member Oliver, and
Yes.
it's your resolution to support asking the General Assembly to extend bar hours in the city of Wilmington. If you would like to speak to this, you may proceed.
Yes, thank you so much. 1 second, let me get my paper. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I've been working with CJ Bell regarding this piece of legislation. This is not an old piece of legislation. This legislation was introduced, was House Bill 216. And just at the time, in Dover, they didn't have the votes in the Senate, I do believe. But nevertheless, this resolution requests the Delaware Generally to extend the bar hours. And this really came about, it reoccurred due to COVID. A lot of bars and restaurants have taken a hit. I have 10 of them that I've spoken to that I like to put on a record between yesterday and today. One was Wilmer's and up on a mall, Stitch House. And Maria, you can help me with some of these because I know you hang out where you know some of these people and some other people. What's that kid Shizaline? What's that kid Shizaline?
Is in Trolley. Yeah.
Thank you. And what's that Romney's and Trolley Square? What is that?
Rooney's, Catherine Rooney's.
Rooney's Cafe, correct. Dead Presidents, Rocco's on Union Street, the Cas Bar, Sweet Daddies, the Monday Club, Tomcats, Big Fish, Antonio's, and Del Pass. I spoke to a manager or either assistant manager regarding, in town, right down from the Stitch House, the Irish Bar.
The Oyster House. There's just a lot of different.
Yeah, it was just, I just wanted to put it out there that all of the bars I spoke to were very in favor of this because it's optional. So it's not someone, I did see where one person had responded to say they were not in favor of it down the riverfront. But what I wanted to stress and what I stressed to everyone yesterday and today is that this is optional. If your bar closes at 12 o'clock, close your door at 12. But if they have something like next week, they have the Ladybug event coming up, Open Streets. If I'm using this for example, if you want to stay open a little later, open up and you have 2 or 3 people in there drinking a beer, you don't have to panic. You can lock your door, but you don't have to panic to think that the ATF, the AFT or the liquor control is going to come in. Thank you, help me out. It's been a long day. It's going to come in and take your license because that's not the case. If you close up, if Mezzanotte closes at 11 o'clock, they could close at 11. If the Ale House closes at 12:30, they can close, but it's optional. Another thing that was brought to my attention by some of the bar owners and assistant that I spoke to, they said it could increase some revenue here since we've lost some, we have a lot of people like at the Baltimore Harbor, we have a lot of new hotels here now. We were just in Forbes magazine and people laughed about it, but Forbes magazine put Wilmington a place to be. If you look at out and about, people say, there's nothing to do around here. If you're looking at out and about, it's a lot of activities that are occurring here in Wilmington a lot of art projects and various other projects that are occurring here. So I'm in favor of it. I appreciate CJ getting me on board with this. And, if anyone else has something to say, I appreciate it.
Thank you for your explanation and letting us know that this is definitely something that members of the community, our business community, are requesting. And I know that our nearby states, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, their bars close at 2 a.m. They usually stop serving around 1:30. Last call. Here in Delaware, we do 12:30. And I know this has come up before. Is there any conversation from the council members on the committee or any of the other council members before we open it to the public? I see that Councilwoman Fields has her hands up. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say to my colleague, Councilwoman Oliver, it's funny you said that, because I had no idea that this piece of I had no idea that you would bring this forward until I want to say Cinco de Mayo night, and I went out and I was enjoying Cinco de Mayo, and a couple of the patrons at the bar that I was at, they said to me, are you in favor of this? I think it'd be a good idea. They said to go hang out because everything closes around here. People want to come to Delaware, but they don't want to come to the bars and restaurants if they're closing at 1 o'clock. Everything is shut down at 12:30. The bar's closing at 1. So it's like downtown Wilmington ends up being a dead zone after a certain amount of time. So I just want to say I'm in favor of it. And I did speak to a couple of bar managers as well when it was brought up to my attention, and they were in favor of it. I don't over there on the north side, one of the bars over there, they were in favor of it as well. So good piece of legislation, and like you said, I believe it will bring in more revenue, and we will be able to have people come across our side of the water and patronize us, because we're not shutting down early. We're the only ones in the tri-state that shut down that early. So thank you again for this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fields. Are there any other? Councilwoman Darby, you may proceed.
Yes, thank you. I want to say I'm in support of the legislation. I want to be added as a co-sponsor if possible. I just want to concur that I just know a lot of people in my age group, we go to outside of Delaware because of the bars closing so early. So I think it's a great way for locals to be able to enjoy our city a little bit more, and for people who want to come and visit, for them to enjoy our city. So I do believe in the economic piece for that. So I'm in full support of this legislation. So if that can be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Darby. And I would say that I myself would also support this. And the fact that it is optional, it's not mandatory. Folks can close earlier if need be. And as long as they abide by all the Alcohol and Beverage Commission laws and rules, it could be more money for the city in terms of the revenue that those bars bring in. And it does promote more people to stay in Wilmington instead of having to drive outside the city limits, outside the state limits, to be able to enjoy an evening out with friends. So thank you for that. Are there any other members of the committee or council that would like to speak before I open it up to the public? Not seeing any hands up. I'm also going to acknowledge that Councilwoman Darby and Councilwoman McCoy have joined us, and I will mark you as present. Thank you so much. So at this point, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? Let me go into my participants. I see that we have CJ Bell is on the phone with us, state representative, I believe. Please go forward.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, thank you again, Madam Chair, for letting me speak, and Councilwoman Oliver for bringing this resolution to the floor. I just want to say that this legislation is necessary and vital to retain a young, robust workforce here in the city of Wilmington, and as well as the state of Delaware, in order to thrive in a post-pandemic world. Since the pandemic has had a devastating effect, especially on the hospitality and restaurant industries. Just to give you a little statistic, according to the American Hotel and Lodging Association's 2021 report, nearly 4 million hospitality jobs were lost in 2020 due to the pandemic. And as you know, Omicron variant and different spikes and different restrictions have placed limitations on the hospitality and restaurant industry. We need to continually think about innovative approaches essential to recovery for the restaurants, the hospitality, as well as city government. Speaking of city government, with the loss of millions of dollars in revenue, essential to the functionality and delivery of services for our residents, this is a critical piece that can, be a shot in the arm for the city as well as the state. As you mentioned, Madam Chair, Delaware has one of the earliest last calls in the nation. We only beat the state of Mississippi, and Mississippi even has exclusions for certain municipalities and certain counties. So this is definitely a step in the right direction, and I'm happy to work with City Council moving forward to make this a reality. So thank you again for your time.
CJ, could you also identify what entity you're with? I'm sorry, I didn't have your title. Could you just identify who you are?
Yes, CJ Bell, founder of the Connect Delaware, a nonprofit geared towards the merging of retaining young professionals in the state.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for that, and my apologies for not knowing your title in the capacity that you were here with us today. I don't see any other hands raised from the public. I don't see any hands raised from the city council members. So this is a resolution. It does not need to be voted out. Are there any closing comments you would like to make, Councilwoman Oliver?
Yes, I see what Councilwoman Harley said that she wanted to be recognized. I'm sorry.
Oh, Councilwoman Harley, thank you for joining us as you're next on the agenda. So you are present. Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Councilman Maria. Thank you for adding this piece on to your agenda. And CJ, it's been great working with you. And thanks for all your support. And I thank everybody else. And I did want to say this. I see a lot of good things on the agenda tonight, and I'm sure I'm not going to be here to support y'all, but I have tickets to go to the playoffs tonight. But y'all have my support, and I will be shooting Mary Bell an email to put my name on some of y'all legislation. Thanks again.
Thank you, and you don't need to rub that in our face. Thank you very much, or the public's face. But have a good time. Okay, the next, the resolution does not need to be voted out of committee, so it will be at the next meeting. Let me see here what the date is. It will be on the June 2nd meeting is what I have here. So thank you very much. Our next agenda item is a resolution to declare 105 South Market Street, Wilmington, Delaware, tax parcel ID number 26-043.00-009 surplus, and to approve it for disposition to the Riverfront Development Corporation, and for the city to accept certain necessary utility easements to maintain access to the property. And the sponsor is Councilwoman Harley. And at this point, Councilwoman Harley, could you speak to this piece of this resolution?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so
clearly.
before I speak to this legislation, is there anyone from RDC or the administration on this call?
Do we have Director Bob Weir is on the call. He is in the meeting. David Soffren from the mayor's office as well. Who would be the most appropriate person to speak to this? Would that be Director Weir?
Yeah, it'll be Real Estate and Housing Director Weir will be speaking on this one.
Thank you. Director Weir, you may proceed to give an explanation of what this is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property is being conveyed to the RDC as part of a long-term South Market Street development project, wherein the city and the RDC have a long-standing partnership to develop and improve the 86 acres of the Riverfront East. RDC will use this project to create a public roadway and river walk. Pursuant to the chapter section 2-621, council approves the parcel for disposition proceedings by Real Estate and Housing. We can convey that through that charter section, we can convey that property to a nonprofit organization. RDC is a nonprofit organization, and I believe the resolution that was attached had the agreement to convey the parcel and an easement back to the city to maintain the utilities that run underneath, under, and across.
Great.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members of the committee to start out with? Let me get the hand thing here. Councilwoman Harley, you may proceed.
Yes, so thank you, Council, Madam Chair. I always like for the administration to give their introduction to the legislation first, because in most cases they have more information and it can connect all the. I met
You're
with
breaking up a little bit,
the
Councilwoman Oliver.
RDC when I learned. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
We
now?
can hear you. You were just breaking up a little bit. We were hearing every other word.
Okay, so I was basically saying that I did meet with the RDC when they explained to me about what is going on with the Riverfront East. Okay, so as Director Weir said, as we all know, and some may or may not know, that there is a major revitalization going on along that corridor. And what I wanted to know was what exactly are we doing with that area and why? And when I spoke to the executive director about the purpose and the importance of this area being available, it made sense to me because it's dealing with a lot of the electrical wiring that is needed, in addition to the easement to connect the river walk. So it's a part of a bigger plan. So as we move forward with the revitalization of the different phases of Riverfront East, again, we had the unveiling a year ago, and this is just a part of one of the phases. So I just wanted to make it clear that I know exactly what this is about. I reached out and got more information when it came to me, and I just wanted Director Weir to introduce the legislation first, and then I wanted to share my comments as it relates to it. So I am in total support of it as we move forward with the different phases of developing the South Market Street corridor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Harley. Are there any other council members that would like to speak? We have, okay, Councilwoman McCoy, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. My question was basically, when did the city of Wilmington actually come into possession of this parcel of land?
Can anyone answer that? Director Weir?
No, I'm sorry, I can't answer that, but I can certainly follow up with it.
Okay.
Are there
Now,
any other? Go ahead. You want to follow up?
Yes, I did want to follow up. So I got a chance to just take a look at the actual address, and this is the where we do see that they are making a brand new Salvation Army. This is the former Salvation Army.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to know. Yes. So, Director Weir, if you can find out exactly when we actually came into possession of that, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure, I'll follow up.
Thank you. Any other members of Councilwoman Harley? Proceed.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As Director Weir mentioned, let me just share a little bit of background. When the area was a wasteland years ago, I guess over 25 years ago, the Riverfront Development Corporation bought a lot of the land, a whole lot of the land. And typically that's what happens, you know, when you have riverfront wasteland areas, you have different organizations and corporations buy up land, hoping that one day it will become viable to revitalize a city or redevelop a particular area. So just sharing that, you know, RDC has had this land for many years. And of course, when there was a plan to revitalize the South Market Street corridor, everything is sort of like happening at one time. And so there are different little pieces and parcels in between. So it's not all of the land. Of course, you got other businesses that are on some of the land that sold the land to be able to make it a full plan as it relates to revitalization. So I just wanted to share that, Madam Chair, because sometimes having information helps us to draw different conclusions. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman Harley, for that explanation. Are there any other questions in reference to this resolution? I'm not seeing any hands up. Since it is a resolution, it does not have to be voted out of committee. It will be on the June 2nd council meeting, as will the resolution that we just spoke about for extending the bar hours. And going backwards, I did not introduce myself. I am Councilwoman Maria Cabrera. Most of you know me, but in case anyone is watching from the public or our audience at home, I am the chair of the committee, and I'm the councilwoman at large. The next agenda, let's see, hold on. Somebody,
Councilmember, I think, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think.
yes, I
Director
see a
Weir
hand
has-
up. I was about to say, before I move on, let me see whose hands up. Go ahead, you may proceed. Go ahead, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a chance just to look it up, and as far as to answer the question of the date that the property was acquired, to our records, it's 2000.
Thank you. Wow, we've had it for a long time. You're very quick, Director Weir. We appreciate that. Councilwoman McCoy, did you have any other questions? Or does that satisfy your question?
Thank you for allowing me to follow up. So we've actually had this property for about 22 years. So Salvation Army was basically leasing it from us?
Go ahead, Director Weir, if you could answer that.
If I'm looking at the property, the actual property is a long strip that goes to the river and turns back to the, goes towards the river and then turns back into the north. It looks to me, without further research, that it actually excluded that site, as far as it probably bordered it. But I can get back to you and confirm that.
Okay. All right, yeah, we can definitely have a conversation offline. I was just surprised that we actually owned the property, all this time. When I've known Salvation Army has been there, for, I guess, decades, I guess.
Great, thank you. And we'll appreciate the follow-up on that, Director Weir, when you have that information. Thank you so much. So at this point, not seeing any other hands, I'm seeing no one from the public who has any questions. We're going to proceed. And again, just reminding everyone that this will be on the June 2nd City Council meeting agenda for a vote. The next item is Ordinance 22-011. An ordinance to rezone 3 parcels of land located at the southeast corner of 4th and Shipley Street, commonly known as Humboldt Park, from a zoning classification of O for open space to a zoning classification of C3 central retail. The sponsor is Councilwoman Harley. And I do understand that we're going to have a presentation from Matthew Harris from the Planning Department. And at this time, Councilman Oliver, if you would like to introduce any information on this piece of legislation, and then we'll proceed with the presentation, or we can wait till after the presentation.
So you mean Councilwoman Harley?
Harley, I'm sorry. Yes, Councilwoman Harley.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, first of all, I want to say that we've had discussions about this legislation when it was first introduced, in terms of feedback from the community of people that lived in that area. We did have some discussion from some of the council members. There were questions about the Humboldt Park, and those questions were answered in terms of the residents that lived in the area, in terms of some of the business people. I'm sorry if you can hear that background noise. So as we know, that whenever rezoning takes place, the individuals that live within a certain feet of that property are made aware. And I said back then, and I just wanted to say now, that there was no oppositions against this rezoning from the constituents that live in the area or from any of the businesses that live in the area. So I wanted to share that before, I think you said Mr. Harris is going to do the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So at this time, we would like to proceed with the presentation from Mr. Matthew Harris of the Planning Department, and it is a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Chair. So yes, my name is Matthew Harris. I'm a planner with the City of Wilmington's Department of Planning, and I'm here tonight to speak to you regarding Ordinance 22-011 and the accompanying resolution to amend our citywide comprehensive development plan. Next slide, please. So Ordinance 22-11 is, like was previously stated, is a proposal to rezone Humboldt Park from O open space to C3 central retail. Additionally, a resolution will be introduced to council, which will be a proposal to amend the comprehensive development plan entitled Wilmington 2028 to amend the future land use map to change the designation for Humboldt Park located at the southeast corner of 4th and Shipley Streets from parks and open space to downtown mixed use. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on how we got here, and Councilmember Harley kind of summed some of this up, but City Council Member Michelle Harley submitted a request to the Wilmington City Solicitor back in December of 2021, requesting the rezoning and disposition of Humboldt Park. The rezoning and comprehensive development plan amendment were presented to City Planning Commission on February 15th of 2022 and were approved. And the rezoning ordinance was introduced to City Council on March 3rd of 2022. And here we are today at Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. Next slide, please. A little bit of history on Humboldt Park. So Humboldt Park, it was developed upon at one time. So the properties were previously used as commercial spaces until those properties were demolished in 1984. In 1984, the properties were rezoned from C3 zoning classification to open space as a use by Dell Tech and Community College as a plaza. That never really came to fruition, and from a planning perspective, the plaza was never truly adopted by Dell Tech and the students. So the park was the focus of a community-driven improvement effort in 2017, and 2 events were held there. At this time, it was informally named Humboldt Park. Next slide, please. So just to orient everyone as to where we are, so we all know exactly what we're talking about, you can see the orange block here is Humboldt Park. The street running right here along my cursor is 4th Street, and then right here is Shipley Street, and then right down here is Market. So the area right to the west here is Dell Tech, and then to the east is largely what we would consider downtown Wilmington. Next slide, please. So then in the Department of Planning, whenever we're looking at a rezoning, we always look to what is surrounding the property to think about what would make sense. So you can see in the red block here, this red circle, this is Humboldt Park, this little space of open, this little green of open space here. So when we looked at the different zoning categories, there's C2 directly to the west, which largely encompasses Delaware Technical and Community College, and then largely C3, which is what we would consider downtown Wilmington. So those are kind of the 2 options that we were exploring when we were looking at rezoning. Next slide, please. So then just a quick run through of the zoning. The existing zoning, like we talked about a little bit, is open space, which is designed to include lands dedicated as permanent open space to be enjoyed by the public for rest and recreation, or to provide permanent light and air to surrounding developments. The surrounding zoning, like I just showed you, is C2, secondary business commercial centers, which are designed to provide both shopping and business needs for large segments of the city outside of the central business area. Now that definition is a little confusing considering it is Dell Tech, but educational institutions are also permitted in that district as well. Then we have C3. And C3 is what we are proposing for Humboldt Park, C3 Central Retail, which is designed for that portion of the central business area, which contains the main retail district, providing a wide variety of retail and display services and serving the whole city metropolitan area. Next slide, please. So also, we not only look to what is surrounding the zoning, we also look to our comprehensive plan. So the plan currently recommends parks and open space for the land use for the site, and the plan is recommended to be amended. And this will be done through resolution by City Council to recommend the land use category to downtown mixed use for the future land use map for the Midtown Brandywine Central analysis area. Next slide, please. And then in summary, as recommended by the City Planning Commission Resolution 122, the city's comprehensive development plan is proposed to be amended to change the future land use map to reflect downtown mixed use for the site known as Humboldt Park from parks and open space. This change will support the rezoning from open space to C3 as recommended by City Planning Commission Resolution 222 and the ordinance before you this evening. And I believe that is my last slide. And if anyone, oh no, sorry, hold up. So then we have the recommendation. So the City Planning Commission recommends the approval of Ordinance 22-11 and the supporting resolution to amend the Comprehensive Development Plan, a proposal to rezone Humboldt Park from O open space to C3 central retail, and then to amend the comprehensive plan to amend the future land use map for the Midtown Brandywine Central future land use map to change the designation for Humboldt Park located at the southeast corner of 4th and Shipley Streets from parks and open space to downtown mixed use. Okay, and I think that that is all that I have for you this evening. If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. We will proceed with questions. Let's start with the members of the committee. I don't see any hands raised. I do have Councilmember Linda Gray, so we'll start with Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, with the change to Zone C3, I think that's what was stated, doesn't that allow residential also?
It does.
Encompasses, yes.
It does.
So has anyone looked at the impact of residential in that area with parking? If that's the choice of the person that purchases the lot?
I can't say that we have done that, to be honest, but I do know that I believe in our downtown, as part of a previous planning commission case, we did, I think, remove the parking standards for downtown simply because we were trying to discourage surface parking lots and things like that. But as far as a formal parking study regarding this property, that is not anything I've been a part of.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
I do want to follow along that vein that Councilmember Gray brought up. So when we do have these projects in neighborhoods and especially downtown with a limited amount of parking, then I would say that that should be something that we do and look at. And I understand we can change some of our parking regulations, but it still makes it pretty tight if it does become residential and it does not have a parking lot specifically for those residents, how that impacts the businesses in the area. Because if it is residential, people are allowed to park and sometimes their cars are there. They have the residential sticker, which means that people that are visiting the city shopping, they're not going to be able to really get in there and park. So I think that is something that we need to explore as we move forward with these projects. We have Councilmember Harley, who can go next. And if Councilman Gray, do you still have your hand up? I'll call on you next if that's.
Yes, I do. Just to follow
Okay, let's continue with, let's go with Councilwoman Harley and then we'll continue with you. Thank you.
Yes, Council Member Cabrera, Chair Member. What is it? I'm telling you, we're getting these titles all right here. Madam Chair, Madam Chair.
Whatever you need to call me, just don't call me late for dinner.
Yeah, so these are definitely conversations that will continue to happen as it relates to parking downtown. And since not a 100%, there's going to be other businesses putting RFPs. So as RFPs are being submitted, depending on what those businesses are that are going to be submitting RFPs, these conversations will be continued and be considered because as we already know, parking is an issue downtown. No questions about it, hands down. So to answer that question, yes, conversations are ongoing about parking downtown and especially new development.
Thank you for elaborating on that. And Council Member Gray, you may proceed. And then after that would be Council Member Fields. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, well, I know we can put a stipulation on residential purchase that they have to provide at least 50% parking. I know we don't have a law like that in the city, that if you do new construction, you have to have a certain percentage of parking.
In some zoning categories we do, but like I said, I believe in our downtown, we actually eliminated that. Simply, I think, to discourage surface parking lots. And I think this goes back to what Councilmember Harley said, is that there will be there is an RFP for this, where I think a lot of those questions can be answered and evaluated and looked upon. But as a specific stipulation saying, to rezone this parking, because there are other things that are allowed in C3 outside of residential. So, I mean, it may not be residential. We don't know.
Thank you. I understand that, but I was just trying to make the stipulation for residential because regardless if people have come forward or not, I've heard a lot of problems, a lot of people who are very concerned if that becomes residential because of their parking problems. So I was just trying to get ahead of it and see if any type of accommodation was being made. And you said surface parking, if it was in a new apartment building or sort of like a condo type thing, they usually have parking in the middle or some type of thing.
Right, like underground parking and things like that to make the downtown more vibrant.
You said that when people apply for the RFPs, these things will be considered. Who will be considering these things?
I don't know totally. I just know that there are evaluation criteria. It's run through our real estate and housing department.
Yeah, Director Weir, I think
Thank you.
be able to explain perhaps for Bob, if you have if you can chime in just.
Yeah, Director Weir, if you can elaborate on that, please.
Yes, as far as there is an RFP out right now for 6 and 8 West 4th Street and 308 North Shipley. That has been advertised and the sealed proposals are due back on May 18th. That process needs to come back before City Council for final approval. So when we talk about the questions that we would have, I would suspect that before the property is disposed of, those questions, there's an opportunity for those questions to be asked and answered.
For Humboldt Park also, correct?
That's the parcel we're talking about, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's actually, council member, it's actually 3 parcels.
Okay, so you gave the addresses of the parcels. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Answered my question.
Thank you. Council Member Fields, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me, can I ask Mr. Weir or Matt, well, either one of them can just figure out how they're going to answer. My question to you is the 3 parcels that are downtown in the 4th district, I'm in the 5th district, and we're neighbors. How much would that affect me as far as parking in my area or my constituents? Does that hinder anything in my district at all, or any of the neighboring districts?
Well, I'll take a stab at it as far as, when you talk about parking, of course, everyone takes more care about their car than they do most other things. When we talk about the universally in this country, when you start requiring parking, what you end up doing is you end up increasing the cost of not only the cost of housing, but also the ongoing cost of housing. So, I'm a proponent and an advocate to have those discussions, way before we get there. So, I'm thinking that we at this point, we have no idea what the outcome will be as far as the winning proposal. That gives us the ability to negotiate with that winning proposal. We've written the RFP up so that it's very plainly stated that we can take some of it, all of it, or none of it. So when we talk about that process, once those are received on May 18th, I think it'll be very interesting to see what's being proposed, and then is that something that we all can agree to and come to some middle ground on, or is it something that we put it back out to RFP? But it's clear in the RFP that the city has the right, reserves the right to put it out again, to cancel it, to take part of it. So I think we have a lot of flexibility.
May I follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I guess what I guess what I'm getting at is this is in the 4th district. This is Councilwoman Harley's district, and she's more aware, and she's more she has been a part of this process since the beginning. So I guess I'm just going to say it in the meeting. I'm in the 5th district, so I'm just going to stay in my lane. If Councilwoman Harley has had these discussions, and I know she's very, very thorough with having the meetings with the administration, with you, Mr. Weir, with me, with you, Mr. Harris, then I think the people that voted for her have enough faith in her to know that she's going to do the right things when it comes to those particular partials or whatever. So I guess I'm just trying to say, if Councilwoman Harley is for it, then I'm for it. That's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see that Council Member Harley does have her hand up, so you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Council Member Fields, for your comment. And my hand was up before you made your comment, just to say to anyone, and I've said this before, and I'm saying it sincerely, that if anyone is calling you about any issues in the district, let me know so I can get ahead of it, and so I can at least try to have the answers prepared for the meeting. I know that there was a conversation previously about individuals calling other council members the same council member. And I'm just saying to the council member, if someone calls you, please have them to call me, because again, going to a different council member without coming to the one that represents that district is not fair. It's disrespectful, and it's okay to call other council members, but at least call the council member that represents that district, because I already mentioned that I hadn't received any calls in terms of anyone being concerned or about the park. And then to hear another council member come behind me to say that they're getting calls, that just is a little confusing. However, I did want to weigh in on the fact that, yes, I know that parking is an issue, and I believe that we have to have these conversations, and I have been having the conversations about parking. So if there's any other information that I need to know from people calling other people, just please shoot me an email and have the person, send me the email or ask them to call me, because I really want to be active in hearing what everyone has to say. And that way, when I make a statement, I'm speaking of everybody that I know of that had any concerns. And that's basically all I'm saying. I'm okay if, with council members being concerned. I'm really okay with that. But I want to know too, let me know what my constituents are calling you about, so I can be in on what is happening. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Harley. And yes, we certainly can't control who they choose to call, but as council members, we can reach out to the member for that district, because in all honesty, the person who's working on these issues in their district are the ones who are going to be well versed on them versus members of other districts, and even the at-large members, because obviously we get calls from everyone across the city, and we'll be mindful of that. But sometimes, again, we just can't control who's going to pick up the phone. Usually they call whoever they're most comfortable with or whoever they know, but it's up to us to be inclusive of the district council members. So with that said, and seeing no one from the audience and no one else with their hands up, this is an ordinance. It does have to be voted out of committee. And it would go to the June 16th council meeting. And during that council meeting, there will be a public hearing and the third and final vote, where, again, the public and any other members have additional time to bring up concerns and questions at the June 16th council meeting. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to move agenda item Ordinance 22-011 out of committee and to the June 16th City Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's an aye, not a nay, right? Okay.
Nay. I was
Nay?
saying aye, that I agree with the nay, but nay.
Okay, so we have one nay. At this point, then
It still goes to the meeting, right?
it's going to go to the meeting. The majority of the members of council voted yay instead of nay, with
Thank
one negative. Okay, thank you so much. Duly noted. And now let's proceed to item number 4, a resolution for consideration to amend the comprehensive plan for Humboldt Park. And the sponsor is Council Member Harley. This is a companion piece to Ordinance 22-011. It does not need to be voted out of committee. And unless there's any additional conversation that anyone wants to have on this, I see Councilmember Harley's hand is raised. We can go ahead. We can move forward. Go ahead, Councilmember Harley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You pretty much said what I was getting ready to say in terms of this just being a companion piece, and the conversation is pretty much the same conversation. So if the committee agrees, then, we can just move on, or whatever way you feel led to handle.
It's a resolution, so we don't have to vote it out of committee. We've already voted the ordinance, and this is just for the public and anyone who's watching. It is a companion piece to Ordinance 22-011, which we just moved out of the committee and will be at the June 16th meeting. So let's proceed with the next agenda item, which is Ordinance 22-022. An ordinance to authorize and approve a one-year extension of contract between 22004 LI between the City of Wilmington and RA Contractors LLC for vacant property services. Basically, what we're doing is extending the contract for the person who goes around and maintains the vacant properties, whether it means boarding up windows so that people do not go in there and squat and start fires by trying to keep warm, or other illegal activities that happen when you have these vacant properties. People stash things in there. It is a hindrance, and it brings down the neighborhood, unfortunately. So any vacant property, lands, lots, things that need to be maintained, cutting the grass, boarding the windows, cleaning the weeds up around that, making sure that it is clean and it's not a total eyesore in the community. So that is what this contract would be. So far, I do hear that RNA contractors have been keeping up with the properties and doing a good job. So we are asking to authorize an extension of the current contract. Are there any questions to this? I see Councilmember Harley, your hands raised for this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to confirm that all of the legislation that I'm sponsoring, are we done with all of my legislation?
Yes. Are you trying to escape the meeting as well?
Yes, ma'am.
It's a wonderful evening. Let's move things along quickly and we could all escape.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for bringing information about your legislation to the meeting. You are excused.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions on renewing the contract between the City of Wilmington and RNA Contractors? Not seeing any hands from the council members. There is no one from the public as well. So this is an ordinance. So, but it does not need to be voted out of committee. Okay. So we are going to. Oh no, I'm sorry. It does need to be voted out of committee. And can I get a motion for the ordinance to be moved out of committee, and it will be heard at the June 2nd council meeting?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. May I get a second? I need a committee member to second the motion.
Second.
Thank you. And this will be for a third and final vote. And at this point, on the question, any questions on this? All right, we can signify by a yay or nay vote. All in favor?
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. It has been properly moved in second and has been voted out of committee. It's going to be June 2nd, the first council meeting in June for the third and final vote. Moving along, we have a resolution for fiscal year 2023 annual action plan budget with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, including funding for the Community Development Block Grant Program, the Home Investments Partnership Program, the Emergency Solutions Grants Program, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS Program. And this resolution is something that comes up for fiscal year 2023. And I will ask Director Bob Weir to speak on this, since it is one of the HUD grants that the City of Wilmington receives.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This annual action plan budget is based on our 2020-2024 consolidated plan. That's a 5-year plan that is vetted in the public, and that is we really use as our Bible. When we talk about this year, it's a little bit different in as much that the disruption of COVID has been weighing heavily on the process. And to be very frank about it, the Real Estate and Housing Department has a vacancy in their senior program administrator. So I am the person that is leading the charge here. So I apologize to Marshall. I know that today I was getting her numbers at the end of the day, but I wanted to make sure they were right. When we talk about this particular disruption, we have not actually received a grant letter from HUD. That usually comes out early in the spring, and we're expecting it any day, but we haven't seen it yet. So these numbers are estimates, educated guesses, but certainly that as a special fund, the chapter and the code allows us to come to council with some flexibility as far as the amounts might change because it is a special fund. We're estimating this year that there'll be $2,156,360 in Cdbg funds, $581,000 and $539 in home funds, and $189.70 in ESG, $824,463 in HOPWA. That is for the program year that will start July 1 and go through June 30, 2023. The process commenced, this annual process really, it commenced in January, where we held a public needs hearing. And that was, again, part of our 5-year consolidated plan. And we also have the flexibility that in that 5-year period, if there is a change in the public needs that we see, we can also change that. So the draft annual action plan has been available. We've advertised and it's on the website so that you can see what we're looking at as far as the dollars and then the beneficiaries. So how many people is this actually going to help? The process is one where we had a information meeting for the subrecipients to make sure they understood that we were working as per the consolidated plan. Here were the dates that you needed to meet. Here were the requirements. And once they were received, we had a panel that reviewed those submissions. And that panel was made up of members of the Real Estate and Housing Department, of the Mayor's Office, of City Council Representative, Office of Management and Budget, Planning, and members of the public. And the attachment that you see as attachment A is really the product of their work. When we talk about the draft of this is available on our website. We also have a meeting to make sure that the public is aware of it. So technically, HUD looks at the meeting tonight as a public meeting, and then we're going to have another one. There's another disruptor as far as with the federal grants, the special funds, and COVID. There was a lot of programming that was not going forward when we were in lockdown. Both staff was cautious and the homeowners were cautious. So as far as there was a lot of money from previous years that was not spent at the same rate. So I would like to substantiate, not substantiate, but to differentiate that this budget is being presented is one, an estimate. We think it's pretty close, hopefully soon. And then also we are going to come back to council with what's called a substantial amendment. And that will be taking prior year's money and applying it to a budget so that you will also see that and you will also be able to have input on that. But when we talk about that substantial amendment, we're going to see that into bigger projects that are going to provide subsidy for, subsidy for homeownership, for rental for 55 and over, for more affordable rental and under one roof. I mean, I think I've talked to many of the council people that I am a professional advocate for affordable rental being under one roof rather than in individual houses in our neighborhoods. One, because I think that it's much easier to manage. And it's also, I am a proponent of under one roof because we can also have service enhancements. When you have a number of people that are living in one building, you can also have service enhancements when you talk about financial health and things like that. So the Attachment A, as you see in front of you, is the product of a panel. And that is my presentation, Madam Chair. And if I'd be more than happy to answer any questions I can answer.
Thank you. I appreciate
And follow up
that.
if I can't answer them.
Yes, and I do want to mention that what was originally put on the agenda, that there was a substitute that was sent that had more of the updated information. So if anyone from the public had looked at what we had before on the website, it has been updated. So please note that that was updated as of today. And I have a question. When you say under one roof, you're talking about programs, for example, like Sacred Heart, Los Jardines, Ministry of Caring, those kind of facilities that provide affordable housing. It helps people that are over a certain age. It also has provides for people who are disabled. And they do have kind of one-stop shopping inside those buildings. That's what you're speaking of?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just, when you think about some of the challenges we have in our community and the conversion of single family residential to, sometimes multiple family, because, you talk about some of our neighborhoods that have big buildings, economically, you have that as a very attractive option for folks. We'd like to reduce that market, and so that the folks that are in the rental market have a place that they could quality, affordable rental. And as you mentioned, that one-stop shop, it makes it very, very easy when you start talking about really making a difference of somebody's life versus the scattered site, and it's all out in the community and it's single owners, and it adds to a lot of the complexity of a healthy community.
Thank you. I appreciate your explanation. Council members, I don't know who had their hand first, whether it's Councilmember Darby or Councilmember Gray. So whomever would like to go first. I don't want to offend.
Truthfully, I think Councilwoman Darby's hand was up first.
Thank you. Councilmember Darby, you may proceed.
Yes, thank you, Council Chair. I have a few questions. So I know that this ordinance or resolution has estimates. When will we get the exact numbers? Do those numbers ever come back to council, or is that just something that would go to you?
Well, we're waiting for the award letter from HUD. And as soon as that happens, then that would be shared. And when we talk about the difference, anybody that I'm talking to in the HUD office right now is saying it's going to be very, very close. So I don't anticipate having a much larger or smaller number. It might be $1 here, $1 there, but I'm not anticipating from any information that I've had that it's going to change that much. But certainly when we get the official, we'll share it.
Yes, and may I follow up, Chair?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, so my next question is about regulation of these funds. I know we had HUD funds previously before that did not follow a lot of the rules for HUD grants. So how are we making sure, and who's managing and making sure that the selected entities in this in attachment A, that they are qualified for the grant, that they're following the rules, and that the city is following the rules, so that we don't ever have to go to the taxpayers and ask them to pay for a mistake that that the department has made?
Well, I think the simple answer is that one, we recognize that we have work to do. And when we did do that, we had a reorganization of the department. So that's happened already. And as far as that allows for more hands-on and more eyes on. When we talk about there has been a resignation of a staff person, and we're going to bring somebody on new. And I think that the comment that I can share with you that is pertinent to me personally and professionally is that I'm overseeing directly this process, and I have a renewed energy to make sure that's done right.
Okay, thank you.
Have another question, Councilman Darby?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you. I would like to say that my concerns were the same as Councilwoman Darby, but I've had some exchange of emails with Mr. Weir, and he's greatly clarified the whole situation. And I still have the concerns, but we're waiting to see what HUD says about the findings. But my question now, so I'm saying thank you to Mr. Weir for giving me a greater explanation of what's going on and sharing the information. My question is, do you think that we will have a grant letter before this goes to council for vote?
Yes. I think statutory, I think HUD is up against the statutory limit. I think we're going to have, is it this week? Is it next week? I don't know, but I know they have a statutory requirement, much like we do when we get money, so Congress gives HUD money and they have to do, they have to meet compliance too. So I'm expecting it very shortly.
Okay, follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, you may.
On your attachment A, can you just give me some clarification? What is Cdbg disposition program delivery?
There are properties that the city has invested Cdbg funds in, and to take those properties and move them out of our inventory is problematic, because sometimes you have properties that, there's properties that the city has owned for 35 years that are Cdbg funded. So, when we start talking about getting those back into action, sometimes they need money to subsidize. Sometimes they need, they always need maintenance. Of course, tonight where you voted on the continuation of the authorization of an extension of a contract. That is for L&I. That's not for real estate and housing. Real estate and housing has their own property management system. So when we talk about those dollars, we're estimating that for some of the properties we have, what it's going to take to make them viable. Some of them is going to be how to maintain them. And then, of course, we need to look at our city and say, if I have 3 properties on a block, maybe we buy another one to make it look and feel like it's going to be a success, rather than just having 2-3 properties here and there. There was a long time that the city used Cdbg as their demo funding, and once you put federal funds into a property, that they don't go away.
Okay, can I have a list of those properties? Not now, but I mean, when you
Sure.
get an opportunity, you can.
Absolutely.
And one other thing, what is Air 106 reviews? Like 3 down.
What has happened is that, they're environmental reviews. So every time that we invest in a project, there has to be an environmental review. And the environmental review is a federal environmental review. They include things like, are they on tribal burial grounds? Are they next to a road that has too much noise? Are they in a neighborhood, say, for instance, that already has services or accommodations like that? So it's a process. And one of the things that our budget has actually decreased this year, because we were paying someone, we were partly funding someone in planning to the tune of $39,000 a year to do those. That person has moved on to a different job, and now we have a consultant. As you can see, we're feeling right now that we can get that consultancy doing the same work for about $25,000 a year. So we're trying to save some money there. But that is a integral part of the process of taking federal funds and investing them into properties.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Fields, you may proceed.
I'm just going to take my head down, but Mr. Ware, if we can schedule a meeting, that would be nice. I had a couple of questions for you,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. It is now open to the public. I do not see any hands raised from the public, but I thank the person who's on hand, Ms. Mann. So now we're going to, this is a resolution. It is going to be on the May 19th council meeting, which is next Thursday. And we do not need to vote this out. So we will proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is a resolution authorizing the Department of Planning and Development grants application.
Chairwoman,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to make a correction, because there was a new development pertaining to this resolution. So actually, there's going to be a public hearing for this, I believe, on May the 25th by Real Estate and Housing, and this will be on the council agenda on June the 16th.
Thank you for that correction. I did not have that information. So June 16th, and the hearing is when, May 25th?
Yes.
Yes.
May 25th. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Okay, so now we will proceed to the next one, which is a resolution authorizing the Department of Planning and Development grants application to the Delaware Department of State, Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs. This is sponsored by myself as the chair of the committee. And speaking on this, we have Debbie Martin, who is the City of Wilmington Department of Planning and Development Historic Preservation Planner, and she will give us a summary of the grant application. Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
and members of the committee. This agenda item seeks a resolution permitting the Department of Planning to apply for the annual Historic Preservation Fund grant, a federal grant passed through the state of Delaware to help continue the historic preservation planning position. Planning has received this grant for over 35 years. Please note that this grant application applies to the present fiscal year. The state was very late, again, in sending out the invitations to apply. So we're already in the year that the grant is for. Because the application was due at the end of March, we received an administrative waiver to submit it on time. The resolution before you would provide a retroactive approval. Planning did submit the required intent document to finance and other key departments prior to submitting the application to the state. The grant that we were invited to apply for is in the amount of $16,682. The needed general fund match was approved already at $50,137 for a total project of $66,819. That includes some consultant funds to assist smaller property owners with National Register nominations that they have already inquired about.
Thank you for that explanation. I was going to ask you specifically, what do these monies get used for those who may not be aware?
Sure, I can speak to that.
Sure, thank you.
So in addition to federal reviews, and Bob touched on some of them that I do for HUD, and I represent the city as a consulting party for non-HUD federal projects that affect the city. Some accomplishments of the program so far this year have been logistics for the National Votes for Women Trail Markers and the Abraham Shad Family Marker. Development of a new outdoor historical interpretive panel about the rocks and the Underground Railroad, and a public presentation through Delaware Historical Society on the background research that went into that panel development. Presentation to the Scenair Kickstart Group on incentives for historic property rehabilitation, and submission of the Wilmington site information for the new Travel with Tubman itinerary on the National Parks app, which is featured in a little article in Out and About magazine this month.
Thank you for that explanation. Yeah, sounds like we do a lot with that. How about, let's see right now, do I have any questions from the members of the committee? Any of the council members, any questions? Not seeing any. Anyone from the public? Not seeing any, then we will go ahead and proceed. This does not need to get voted out of committee. And this will be on the May 19th council meeting, which takes place next Thursday. The next agenda item, thank you, Planner Martin, so much for the information.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
The next item is a resolution for support of HB number 385, an act that allows any municipality with a population of 50,000 or more to establish by ordinance rules for the location of liquor stores that are more restrictive than state law, and requires the alcohol commissioner to refuse a license for any new establishment that does not comply with those rules. The sponsor is Councilwoman Darby. And Councilwoman Darby, I'm not sure if you saw the message in terms of this item, but it did pass the House, and now, of course, it will go to the Senate. But I will let you speak to this resolution. I did get a message from Representative Bolden letting us know that it has moved forward in the House. Good news.
Yes, that is good news. Thank you, Council Chair. So when I saw this legislation, it spoke to my heart and mind for me in regards to the city just having a little bit more control over and say over liquor stores and what the policies and procedures or rules are around that. So I'm just excited that it has passed and is going through the process. So really, it was just a letter of support, just saying that I support our city having to be, for us to make that decision about liquor stores in my district. I know it wouldn't affect liquor stores that are already established, but I already have 3 liquor stores within a 2-block radius. And quite frankly, I am over liquor stores. And I don't think we need so many in the city and so many in the same area. So I'm in direct support of this and making sure that we're not establishing any more liquor stores in our city at all. I think we have enough, but thank you.
Thank you so much. I agree with you 100%. We find that, and not every liquor store, I mean, because you have neighborhoods where there aren't any problems, there aren't any issues. It's just the way that the stores are being ran. And if we're going to be giving licenses to people who are not going to be responsible property owners, whether it's a liquor store, whether it's a corner store, when you allow the loitering, when you allow the trash that comes out that people just throw outside your doors, it just brings the whole neighborhood down. And I feel people should have access to the things that they want. And here in Delaware, I know when I moved here from Pennsylvania, I went into culture shock because, you know, we have state stores in Pennsylvania. They close at a certain time. You don't get to go shopping at 10 or 11 at night to go buy, you know, any hard liquor. You could buy beer. That's about it. So this is really good. And I'm trying to ask Representative Bolden if maybe it has passed altogether and not the House. But certainly we here in the city are very thankful that the General Assembly has taken this on, because for the longest time, our hands have been tied with the businesses that come into our city, disrupt our neighborhoods. And I personally, when I drive around in locations where people have gotten shot, where there's been shootings, there's been problems, a lot of time you will see that there is vacant properties, number one. The second common denominator are liquor stores, and the third one will be neighborhood stores, all in different degrees. And not to say that all those entities are going to be problematic in every neighborhood, but in some neighborhoods there are more than others. And I think it's time to give our citizens a break from all that happens around that. And if you can't be a responsible business owner in Wilmington, don't come to our city. Go and create havoc somewhere else. Those are my thoughts as the chair of the committee. Is there anyone else from City Council that would like to make a comment on this? No, everybody wants the meeting to end. So with that, we have gotten through this very extensive agenda this evening. I thank everyone that attended, whether you were online, through Zoom, or at home on your televisions. Thank you for participating in the process. I thank the council members that were here. And at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Everyone, thank you again and enjoy this wonderful evening and stay safe. Thank you.